Coach, appreciate your time as always. Let's start here. One thing that has never changed this season with your team is they've played really hard. They've played hard all the way through, but they haven't necessarily had the results to go along with it. What was it like yesterday for you to walk back into the locker room, walk off the field after it was over with that series win, and kind of get to see them enjoy an SEC weekend after taking 2 of 3 from Georgia?
Well, first, thanks, because I think that's probably the biggest compliment that you can give a coach, right? That the team plays hard, and especially through adversity, and especially when things aren't necessarily going your way, or you're not playing well. But it was good. We haven't had many walk-offs. We had one against Purdue, and then before that, we didn't have any walk-offs last year. How about that? To win a national championship and not have a walk-off, and certainly this year we've been walked off or had it gone the opposite way for us. So just happy for the guys, and happy that they continue to show up and get after it every day.
So let's walk through the games. First with Friday night. You get the 7-3 win. There were some clutch hits that were in there. There was some add-on stuff. But I feel like it's got to start on the mound. One with what Xavier Rivas gave you, and then at the end, especially with what Jack gave you.
Yeah, so the decision to put Jack in the bullpen, just, again, I think just needing the lift. As we just mentioned, we've had some games that, slipped away from us. But we've had some games where, the starting pitching hasn't been good. But to have that bullet in your gun obviously was a big thing. And, we're at a point where we got to go for it. So, Xavier, gives us an opportunity to win like he normally does. But it's not super clean. He gives up a couple runs in the second, runs his pitch count out, and then we go for it. We go with Braden Jones, we go with Morrell, we go with Nichols, and then eventually, we go with Doherty, at the end. But he was lights out at the end. I think he had 5 strikeouts, 5 of the 6 outs, 2 innings, 5 of the 6 were strikeouts.
It's crazy. I guess sometimes because of where you are in the season, the decision is made for you. But is that still a little unsettling on Friday to say, I don't care how many bullets we have to fire, we're firing them all. We're going to go try and win this game?
Well, it's certainly not by design, but let's face it, the season hasn't been by design, and be careful what you design, because a lot of that hasn't come to fruition for us, but like I said, to have Jack at the back end was big, and it ended up being big even though it wasn't pretty on Sunday. But no, you're right. I mean, I think we're at the point where we gotta keep firing the gun. Hopefully bullets keep coming out.
So game 2, I know disappointing loss. Charlie Goldstein on the mound for Georgia was really, really good in that game. And my guess is you look at that walk number at the end and you feel like maybe that's the difference, the 7 walks.
Yeah, and probably, and I can't recall the inning now, but I want to say it was the 3rd inning where. No disrespect to Georgia. I don't want it to come across wrong where you say you gave them, runs, but where they get 3 runs and don't get a hit, that doesn't happen, much. And without an error, we gave them 2 walks, 2 HPPs, and 3 runs, and you just can't do that in our league. So we give them 3 runs, you end up losing 7-3. So we don't pitch it well. And then, Goldstein was just too good on the mound, and, we'd like to do a better job. We have to do a better job, but he's been really good for them all year long in conference play.
And then yesterday, and I feel like a lot of things that you can talk about from yesterday. You get the clutch hit from McCants at the end. You get a really, really good starting performance from Grayson Saunier, probably the best that he's pitched, I guess, since he's been on the Ole Miss campus. Jack has to kind of fight his way through it at the end. And then you make the play where Utermark, after pinch running, comes around to score.
Yeah. So obviously a walk-off win, as we mentioned, but I think it starts on the mound. Grayson, not just a great start, 6 innings of, one-run ball, on a Sunday, which you don't see a lot in our league. But, after, throwing 70 pitches on Tuesday against Mississippi State, where he pitched really well. And so, not, necessarily, super short rest or anything like that, but it's two starts and more than you'll pitch in professional baseball. And he was brilliant on the mound. And then, we go to the bullpen, and Nichols has been good his last, handful of outings. And it really was more they're doing than anything else. Some balls fall for them where he wasn't hit necessarily hard, but some balls found some holes. And when you talk about plan, as we just did a couple minutes ago, the plan was, hey, when the game's on the line, you got to have the ball in Jack's hands. And so we didn't want to go that early, but we had to. And it was messy and it was tough, but the good news is we hung in there. Jack hung in there, and even though we blew a lead, we didn't give up a lead to them. And, we held it to where, we were, a couple swings away from winning it. And fortunately, TJ gets the big hit at the end.
Visiting with Mike Bianco, Ole Miss head baseball coach, after the Rebels take 2 of 3 from Georgia this weekend. So production at the bottom of the lineup. TJ McCants, Peyton Chatagnier played such a big role for you a year ago, and certainly the season maybe has not gone the way that those guys would have liked. They seem to be coming around a little bit over the last couple of weekends. I think Friday and yesterday, those two guys combined for 3 runs in each of those games.
They did, and Peyton had a couple home runs this weekend, and really not even last year, Richard. If you look back at the beginning of the year when we were playing well in non-conference play, one of the reasons that we thought the offense was so good is 1 through 9. Those guys, I think opening weekend were batting 8th and 9th in the lineup, and 2 guys that played in Omaha, 2 guys that as you said, finished the year well. But that was one of the reasons that we thought the lineup was so dynamic, and we were able to score. Because when you can only score at the top end of your lineup, man, it makes it tough. Because if those guys don't come through, man, it's another inning and a half, 2 innings before you flip that lineup back over. So when those guys, and not just Peyton and not just TJ, but others, when Will Furnace is swinging it, and other guys are swinging it from the 6th spot down, that makes that lineup that much better.
All right, so you mentioned his name, and that's where I wanted to go next. It feels like Will Furnace is becoming a whole lot more than just a last name or Eddie's son. Talk to me about his development from when he stepped on campus last fall to where he is, with 39 games played for you.
Well, certainly we think he's a player, but as you know, and as we know over the years, and as fans, certainly if you didn't know, you know it now. This is a tough league to play as a freshman, and when you got that name on the back of your jersey, there's a lot of eyes on you. But when you start to look up and you start to look at how many starts, how much he's on the field, and I'm proud of it. He's always hovered somewhere around 270, 280, and even into conference play where everybody's average drops, everybody's ERA goes up. Will's has kind of stayed steady there, and he hasn't been great against the left-handed pitching, but he got a big hit on Friday night against a left-handed pitcher, big RBI. And, again, I think, he's had a really solid, freshman year where I think you can start to think where, hey, this guy's going to, at some points, kind of write his name into that middle lineup at some point.
All right, so last thing for you, 3 weeks left in the regular season. Obviously, there is work to do to get into the SEC tournament. There's a ton of work to do if you guys are going to play your way into the postseason. Do you go one game at a time? Do you talk bigger picture about, hey, we have no margin for error. This is what we've got to do if we want to get to where we want to go?
Well, I think you have to play the game one game at a time. You got to play it one pitch at a time. I know it sounds like coaches speak, but it is. It's the only way that you do it. You can't win the Masters by talking about Sunday, right? You could better talk about your drive, on the first tee box, and so that's where you got to stay, and that's how you finish. But you know what? There's shows like yours. There's websites. You want to count the games and you want to do all that. There's enough people counting them for you. So it's not that they don't know. We don't need to get up on a grease board to show the guys and start writing down schedules and all of that. They get all of that. And at the end of the day, you got to win your games. And so you better worry about the one in front of you.
Maybe you need one of those posters in the locker room like they had in Major League.
They never even heard of that movie, Major League.
You're probably right. Coach, appreciate your time. We'll catch up next Monday.
Thanks, Richard.